Alright, so this is 7/8/7/17. Yes, this is Friday, 2 weeks after the 4th of July. I'm doing a quick visual. This is my third attempt to do this, a visual inspection of my eBay purchase of this ZX-12R from Corey Butler, gentleman in Phoenix, Arizona, through eBay. I'm going to try to tell the story quickly, succinctly, and accurately, along with visual documentation. Hopefully I won't get interrupted. Okay, so now one of the things I've learned in my third attempt to do this is park the tail of the bike to a wall so that you don't show the license plate. Second thing is try to use a nondescript location that isn't easily identified from the video, because while you'd like to think that it isn't going to matter if people see the tags or see where or can identify where you park, there's always a chase in two wheels lesson, which is that somebody's going to see this video and want to steal this bike. Let's not make it ridiculously easy for them to find it and steal it. So I'd like to get this without editing, and I'd like to get this so that it works in court, so that it works on YouTube, and so that it works as my insurance record for this bike. I've had this bike for 2 weeks. I've ridden it approximately 500 miles. The Monday after the 4th of July, which was the 7th, was the first day I'd actually laid eyes on this bike in person. And the shippers that I had, which are 1AAmotorcycle.com, extensively documented the bike before they shipped it up here. They did not document it on arrival because I let them waive the documentation, redocumentation of the bike. I have the original paperwork for shipping, which shows all the little marks and stuff that they put on the sheet of paper that shows everything that they marked, and they do so because they usually ship show bikes, and they need to document every little problem that's wrong with the bike that they see before they ship it, so that they can eliminate any liability for any marks or damage to the bike as the shipper. So let's do the deal here. Okay, this bike I bought on eBay for approximately $3,500 from Corey Butler, based upon his ad on eBay saying that the bike was in great condition, no accidents, and he was selling it for $3,500. Okay? Now, Mr. Butler took my deposit for the bike, tried to make this claim that he was going to just tell me it was a non-refundable deposit. I agreed to buy the bike as is, just to make it easier for both of us, because I didn't want to argue with him about whether it had a scratch here or a ding there. I knew that he said it needed new plastic in the ad, okay, and I thought that meant it needed some new plastic, okay. He couldn't really argue that it needed all new plastic. All the plastic needed to be replaced on the motorcycle. It's just ludicrous. There's so much plastic on a bike, there's no way that you can argue that all of the plastic needs to be replaced, and there's no reason for all the plastic to be replaced. So my idea was basically to buy the bike and fix the plastic that was on the bike that needed to be repaired, rather than replace it just because it was damaged, okay? So I was hoping to get all the plastic parts that ship with the bike. Now, this is where things start to take a really, really weird turn, okay? I told Mr. Butler that I was gonna come down there and pay for the bike, the outstanding balance of the bike in cash, inspect the bike, all that kind of stuff, and then ride it back home from Phoenix to DC, okay? Mr. Butler said, yeah, sure, you can do that. No problem. You can just tape the broken pieces or side fairing pieces, tape them onto the bike. I'm thinking that it was the mounts that were broken. not the entire panel, okay, but just the mounts. When he says that you'll have to tape them back on the bike. I don't think anybody in their right mind would think that they're going to tape a shattered side panel back together, tape it on a motorcycle that's been wrecked twice, that has bent handlebars, bald tires, a bad chain, no cowl because the cowl has been shattered, no fender because the fender has been shattered, no chain guard. The chain guard's not really a big deal, I'm just pointing it out. It didn't have a chain guard either, and ride that bike 3,000 freaking miles back to the district. Now, no one in their right mind that I know of would think that. But I suppose that some crazy person would actually do that. And I think this is where we're starting to see, where I really have to start to put him. This dude is crazy, but in a crazy way, what he says makes sense. It's just that you have to understand the mentality that this guy is working with, okay? Or where he's working from. When he says it needs new plastic, see where it's missing plastic right there over that, that's the choke cover, the choke control right there that you're looking at. See how the ECU, the battery plugs, everything like that on the left there, see all that is all exposed? When he says it needs new plastic, that's what he's talking about. It needs a new piece of plastic that's supposed to go there. The piece that was there, the original OEM piece, is long gone. When he says it needs new plastic, he means, you see that tank cover right there? You see that big scratch on the tank cover that's covered up with tape right there? When he says that needs to be replaced, or when you need a new piece of plastic, that's what he's talking about. Okay, now I can jazz with all of that needs to be replaced, needs new plastic, okay? Needs new plastic, okay? I can jazz with all that, okay? Fender wasn't even there in the box of parts that he gave the shipper. And I'll show you the pictures that the shipper sent me when they picked it up later. But for right now, let's just focus on what we got here. Needs new plastic, okay? Let's just focus on that. Needs new plastic, okay? I can understand when you say it needs new plastic. The point is, what does need new plastic mean? That means it's either not there or damaged well beyond repair to where you literally need new plastic, okay? And I admit that I was being a little bit optimistic when he said that. I thought, well, okay, maybe you're saying that, but I would fix the plastic that it has on there. Maybe the plastic wasn't fixable and I was being a little bit optimistic, but it certainly never occurred to me that it wasn't going to be there at all. And it definitely never occurred to me that it wasn't going to be there because it had been shattered in an accident. For a bike that the esteemed Mr. Butler was claiming had never been in an accident, okay? No, Mr. Butler in his ad, in his infinite mind criminal craziness, had put a picture of this bike in brand new condition in the ad, okay? He'd also put a picture of the bike without the side fairings on, and I'll get to that in a minute, but let me just say right now, without the side fairings on the bike, without the cowl that you see right there with the headlights on the bike, without the fender on the bike. He'd put a picture of the bike without all those plastic pieces, but he put the picture, it was a small cell phone shot that was about 120 pixels by 90 pixels, and there was no way when you're standing this far back from the bike that you could see the damage. The only thing you could really see was that clutch cover was a little bit scratched up. But there was no way that on a low resolution, noise reduced, really low fidelity cell phone shot, you couldn't see the damage to the bike. Especially if the plastic had been taken off, okay? It's like, he did his best not just to hide the damage to the bike by taking off the plastic and taking a picture of it without the plastic on it, but to lie about the fact that it had been damaged at all by posting a picture of the bike before it had been wrecked. Okay, Corey, you don't have a leg to stand on when you claim that the bike has had no accidents and you post a picture of the bike before. It might not even have been this bike. It might have been some other black ZX-12R, okay? As far as I know, honestly, it didn't even, who knows what bike that was, okay? You can't claim that you aren't defrauding your customer when you post a picture of a brand new bike when your bike has been wrecked and the side cover has been replaced already. Because of that, the stator cover has been replaced, okay? The side fairing cover is shattered. You're missing a cover over the engine on the left and right side, okay? When you've got scrape marks on the turn signal where it's been ground. See that? That's where it's been ground against the ground, right there. When the bar ends are gone, the handlebars are bent, the clutch cover is gone, is bent, broken. It was actually broken off right there in the middle. When the mirrors were scratched up, when the windscreen was shattered, when the cowl had a giant tire mark in the bottom of it from when it had been slammed up into the cowl as you or your friend rode it into something at high speed. When this thing wasn't even, I mean, listen to me, the front fender wasn't even given with the bike. It wasn't even there. So yeah, it needed new plastic on that alone, right? Because you didn't have the plastic. It had been destroyed. And I notice I haven't stopped yet, okay? This side had also been damaged. That bar end was gone. That brake lever was broken in half. That mirror was ground up. There's that obvious damage in the tank. I think you can see that pretty clearly. Let's just move it here a little bit more, okay? You can see that that side cover is not there. You can see that that clutch cover is ground, and you can see that damage right there to that little plastic under seat piece, okay? There's also some minor scrapes on the exhaust. Not really anything significant. There's a little bit of a grind mark there, and two little, you know, burrs in the seat. And the seat on that side has a hole in it. I hope this thing is focusing for once. Okay. I bought and shipped down there at my expense after buying this bike and seeing the pictures and getting the reports from the shippers and also the guys that they were lucky or nice enough for me to take it to. The guys are a racer down there, repair shop down there, Kawasaki repair shop, and they were starting fixing that bike, and they said, man, there's no way you're going to be able to get any of this plastic. This plastic is utterly crap. It's just cracked, broken. And I said, you know, I could try having them ship it up to me, fixing it, sending it back. I checked the price of shipping that plastic. You see that side panel right there? And I said, you know how much that side panel cost me? This whole side panel piece right here? You know how much that cost me to ship down there from DC to Phoenix? It cost me $100. You know how much it cost me to ship that cowl from DC to Phoenix? $100. That fairing, I mean fender, that cost me $50 to send them. To send bike rounds, okay, with minor insurance, I probably spent a good $500 shipping parts down there. Just shipping the parts down there. That side cover, okay, that fender, that cowl, I bought it in Pittsburgh. I went to Pittsburgh and bought it, then brought it back to DC, then shipped it down to Arizona. That fender, that side cover, the whole black side cover you see right there, okay, I went up there and bought that off of eBay. That cost me $350 for those two side panels and that cowl. And it cost me another $200 to ship it down to Phoenix. Then they installed it at $75 an hour, okay? I spent $3,500 to get this bike back into this condition, okay? But we weren't done yet. Because while we had the parts to replace the parts that had been damaged, they wouldn't fit on the bike. See that line right there? Where that set of screws are right there? You see that line? Right there? See how they join together all nicely? They wouldn't fit like that. They overlap by 2 inches. They wouldn't fit at the bottom. They overlapped the mount there where you see that silver disc at the bottom of the brake lever. That wouldn't match up with the frame. Lo and behold, after a little bit of detective work, we found out the front wheel was 2 inches farther back than it should have been. That was another consequence of the no accidents bike having actually been in 2 accidents. The frame was bent, the forks were bent, the upper and lower triple clamps were bent. You see those things right there? That is the upper triple clamp. You see those gold things right there? That is the left fork. That's the upper left fork, that's the upper right fork. The lower triple clamp is the silver thing around the fork, okay? The frame is that big gray thing. It's sort of like a backbone on this bike. It runs, not like most bikes where they have a wraparound perimeter frames. This one has a monocoque frame and it runs under the upper tank cover and down here. And this basically forms like a wide C that runs down the side there. It was bent, okay? I had to pay $75 to have this bike shipped to a frame straightener from the repair shop in Arizona. $600. They did it for me at cost because they originally didn't see that it was bent, okay? The repair shop didn't see it was bent. I wouldn't have done any of this if I'd known the frame was bent. I wouldn't have done a thing. I would just immediately have just iced it if I had known the frame was bent. But because they told me it wasn't bent to the best of their ability to detect it, I said, okay, let's go ahead and try to get it back into shape and we'll go from there. At least into rideable shape and we'll go from there, okay? Then at the very last step, right when they were putting it all or trying to put it all back together, they go, oh, you know what? Maybe the wheels were aligned, but that doesn't mean the frame was straight. The wheels were aligned, but the front wheel was 2 inches back farther than it should have been. The whole front end was at a higher angle than it should have been. And it all had to be straightened out right there and in the frame, okay? It really needs a new frame. Guess how much a frame is? A factory frame, an OEM frame. Guess how much it's gonna cost to install an OEM frame? You're looking at $1,500 for the frame plus $1,000 for installing it. The installation has to be done by a dealer. It has to be done at dealer certified repair costs. And then you have to get it retitled because the title has to match the frame and the engine, not just the engine or the frame. $2,500 worth of work right there, okay? So I spent $600 to get that frame straightened out, $75 to get the bike shipped to the frame guy, and then $75 to get it shipped back to the repair shop so they could finish the repairs. That was $750 right there, okay? It also had ball tires. It had a bad chain. The chain was all rusted up. It had obviously been sitting around. The fork seals on the front fork, see where the black part right there? Those seals were shot. The oil was out of the fork. It was basically sitting on top of the wheel, okay? This bike was fucked. It was totally fucked. You can see that those inner side fairings, come on baby, inner side fairings are cracked. That mount is not, there's no bolt there, that's pretty straightforward. That bolt right there is missing. That one is cracked. See that easily. Aside from the splatter, blah, blah, blah. The big thing is, there's no bolts holding the lock. Okay, and it has slipped off the piece of tie wrap that was holding the lock up into the steering upper triple clamp. I'm gonna have to bolt that in so I can ride it home tonight, okay? Otherwise, not only will it not lock, but it tends to fall out and jam the steering, okay? Why are there no bolts there? There's supposed to be bolts right there, okay? Why are there no bolts there? I have no idea. Other than, that's a new key core also. But they couldn't mount the key core because the frame was so bent, because the upper triple clamp was so bent, because the mounts are so bent. So I'm now thinking that none of this will actually bolt to the upper triple clamp. We'll find out shortly. Now the damage to the cowl is there because the cowl was damaged. The windscreen was damaged when I bought it on eBay. It was used parts. It's got a crack there. This cover's a crack. That little grind mark there. Apparently somebody had written there on with grease pencil, and some other genius decided to try to scratch it out or rub it out with something abrasive and scratch the window, the windscreen. But this cowl is an OEM factory cowl, not the cheapo thermoplastic garbage that was on the bike, or actually in the box next to the bike when they picked it up. It had that 4 here. That is a generic $350 set of plastic, the cowl and 2 side fairings and the fender for this bike. I also had to pay for that chain cover. That was another 50 bucks, I guess. Shipped it down there for 20 bucks. I don't know, I forgot. I have all this stuff, obviously, in eBay, my eBay records. So anyway, long story short, Mr. Butler is going to come to court whenever I actually subpoena him or get him served. Hopefully in Phoenix, after I pay $500 to go down there and sue him. We appear in court. He's going to say he agreed to buy the bike as is. Well, guess what? How else are you supposed to buy it? The fact that you agree to buy it as is doesn't mean that it's not fraud to misrepresent the characteristics of the merchandise when you advertise it and sell it and take money as a deposit for it. Aside from the fact that the guy relisted the bike afterwards for the difference between what he wanted and the deposit, and I caught him relisting the bike, okay? I caught him 2 weeks later relisting the bike on eBay. Aside from that, in the eBay guidelines, in the fine print, it says you agree to buy the merchandise as is. You have to pay for the merchandise in full before you can make any claims for restitution of fraud or to return or to revocation of the sale. That's the policy on eBay, is you agreed to buy the merchandise as is. Agreeing to buy the merchandise as is does not mean you agreed to buy wrecked merchandise, junk merchandise, or merchandise that is fraudulently misrepresented, other than as it actually is. That's the clear issue for returns. When you are sold something that is clearly not as it has been described. Okay? Now, if you agree to buy it knowing that it's a piece of junk, that's one thing. Guy puts on an ad, it's totally accurate, shows the condition of the merchandise, and then you agree to buy it. You don't have a claim at that point, a leg to stand on to say that you didn't know that. Okay? You agreed to buy it with full knowledge of its condition. But when the guy puts a picture of a brand new item in his ad and sells the bike as, if not brand new, but in almost new or nearly new condition, and you get the bike and it has been wrecked twice, that's a no contest case. No contest. But this fool is still arguing I agreed to buy his bike as is, and therefore he did nothing wrong. He doesn't quite grasp the reality of he completely and fraudulently misrepresented the state of the bike. To him, that doesn't have anything to do with anything. That's irrelevant. Who cares what the ad said? You agreed to buy it as is. But he doesn't get the fact that I had no idea of what condition the bike was in when I agreed to buy it, other than what he said it was like in his ad. And that is the issue. Now let me give you a warning about one other thing. Let me tell you something else, okay? The bike might have been in great condition. It might have been in perfect condition when it was sold. He still has to deliver the item as described in his ad. So even if he had wrecked it after the purchase, he still would be responsible for this, okay? What often happens in an eBay situation or online is that somebody will advertise an item as in good condition, make the sale, then never deliver the merchandise. That's another issue, okay? Or they make the sale, they advertise the item, they make the sale, and it's not theirs. It's somebody else's. Okay? It's a stolen item or something like that. Now, I really do have to ask this guy, what would make him think that it wasn't a legitimate sale? What possible reasons would he ever think wouldn't mean that it was a legitimate sale? Would mean that it was not a legitimate sale? What could have gone wrong in his estimation with this whole thing? If selling a wrecked bike as in good condition with no accidents is not fraud, is not wrong, what was wrong? What could have been wrong in his mind? So in any case, I mean, obviously the guy's probably taken the money and sold it and spent it a long time ago, and it's going to be very unlikely that he actually will have the ability to raise the money that I'm asking for, because I'm asking for the sale price for the bike plus the cost to repair it back into as advertised condition. Okay, that's what I'm asking for. I'm sorry. Every dime that I've spent on this bike, I'm asking for it back. Because I want it back. It's been nothing but a headache, nothing but a hassle, except for the fact that it's here now. I can finally ride it, and it's been mostly fun to ride. Now these guys at Arizona Motorcycle and Towing took it to a place, and they said, oh, the guy straightened out the frame, he straightened out the upper triple clamps, he straightened out the forks. They're not straight. They're close. Okay, it's close, but it's not right. Okay, trust me. The big problem is that close is close, but right is right. And it's the same thing to guilty versus innocent. You know when a bike has not been down when you ride it. And that's what I wanted most of all, was a bike that had not been down. Okay? I would not have bought this bike if I had known it had been wrecked, and I damn sure would not have put any money into it if I had known it had major frame damage. Here you have a guy who's a certified mechanic that doesn't detect the fact that it had major frame damage until they tried to put the side covers on the bike that I sent them, the new side covers, because they're thinking, oh, you bought cheap non-OEM side covers. That's why they don't fit. And I had to have them actually look in the inside and go, look, you see those serial numbers on the inside of that side cover? That's an OEM part. That's not some kind of cheap non-OEM part. That is a legitimate OEM part. They go, gee, maybe, I don't know why it doesn't fit there. Maybe there's something wrong with the mounts. Maybe we ought to check the mounts to see if the mounts are not straight. No, mounts were fine, okay? I don't want you going there bending the mounts to try to make that part fit. The frame is fucked. That's the problem. You guys did not detect the fact that the frame was bent. And that's why they did all that framework. Well, at least they did the frame. They didn't charge me on top of the cost of the framework for that work. Normally they would have charged a markup, I guess. But the frame is not perfect. It's not an unbent frame. The forks are not unbent. The triple clamps are not unbent. They're just straightened. That doesn't mean that they're right. There's a difference. And when you ride it, you can tell that difference. It doesn't handle awfully. I've ridden bikes. I've owned bikes. Trust me, my last bike had been dropped and severely bent, and then they got abused and vandalized and all kinds of stuff. And I just kept going back and forth and trying to get the frame, the forks and the triple clamp straight. Never quite could get it. Got it close, and then I had two issues with two sets of assholes who decided they were going to screw it up again. And by the time I sold it, it was worse than it was when I started. All because they kept up in my house and knocking the bike over in the middle of the night. Okay, you know when the frame is right. You know when the steering is right. You know when the handling is right, because the parts are basically in good shape, in factory spec. If, maybe not, the seals, the oil, the tires, the shocks, the bushings, that's one thing. The basic frame components are bent, that's something else, okay? This bike needs to get back into good, not having been wrecked condition. It needs a new frame, it needs new triple clamps, and it needs new forks. That's simple, okay? Trust me, $2,500 for the frame, those triple clamps, that's gonna be $250 for that top triple clamp, and it's going to be $600 or some odd dollars for the lower triple clamp. It's going to be $1,500 for those fork tubes, and that's without installation. That's without pulling the old ones off. That's without taking the bike apart, and that's without putting the new ones in. Okay, so you're talking about $2,500 plus $1,000 plus another at least $1,500 for the forks. Okay, that's that's $5,000 just for those three things, plus the install. Right? Oh no, I already counted the frame install, but still. Okay, plus the install of those front components, and you're talking about 5 or 6 hours, because that's about what it costs to replace the steering head bearings. At least 5 or 6 hours at $75 an hour, probably 10 hours altogether for another $700, $750. Okay, so you're looking at $1,750 plus at least another $1,500, say about $3,000 for the front end plus $2,500 for the frame. This is why, my friend, people do not buy bikes that have been down unless they don't care that they've been down. And that's why there's such a big difference between the cost of a bike that has been down and the cost of a bike that has not been down. Okay? The cost of a bike that has not been down is still going to be less than the blue book value of that bike. It will cost twice as much as that bike is worth. to replace those parts with new OEM parts, with OEM labor. The only other option is to either write it like it is and just live with it, or you buy eBay parts and put them in yourself, or you put them in a shop and you pay full price for the labor but half price for the parts, but then you don't know the parts are in good shape. You don't know that they're straight. Okay, it's really hard to certify that the parts are straight. I'm gonna get locked in here in a minute. All right, so in any case, I got 30 minutes. In any case, so I've put $3,500 worth of work into this bike. It needs another $5 or $6 grand. Okay. Now, should I argue for the original cost of the bike at $3,500? I say yes, because the bike wasn't worth $3,500. It just wasn't. Okay. The sale was fraudulent from the beginning, so you cannot attach the value that the sale was made. So technically, I should have returned the bike and got my money back. I offered him that option. He wouldn't take it. He wouldn't do it. Okay? So that option is no longer on the table. Now, what we've had to deal with is a year of additional nonsense behind this bike, on top of the fact that the registration wasn't even up to date. I had to pay $600 to get the registration up to date to get the tags. Okay? He didn't want to sign the title properly, so I had to spend $150 to get the title transferred. Okay? The guy was as difficult as he possibly could have been at every step of the way once he got his money. And that's why I want the $3,500 for the bike, because I've had to deal with this entire nightmare for no reason other than this guy's been a complete asshole. From the moment he listed that bike until the moment he gets a judgment that says, you're gonna have to pay X amount of dollars, and until he actually does pay it. And we're looking at a year already. Enough of this shit. Oh, one more thing. I'm trying to add this. So I mounted the lock in here. As you can see there, it's locked in tight. Guess what holds that lock in place? That's the ignition lock and everything. And you see that's on top of the other stuff, right? So there's nothing that's blocking that from access. Right there. Where's my pin? Edit this part out or something, I don't know what. What do I do with my pin? Light. That is a cool little light. Of course I can't find right now. Paid $350 for it too yesterday. Oh, here it is. Okay. So, see that light right there? Let's focus this a little bit better. I'm sure it's out of focus. All right, see that black piece right there? That's the steering lock. That also has the ignition and everything. And the other black piece that goes across, that's the cowl mount. I had to buy another one of those too. $175 for a aftermarket cowl mount, plus shipping it down there for, I think it was $80 to ship it and then have it mounted for $75, plus have the cowl mounted on top of that. After having all this crap taken apart. That has two bolts holding it on, that should hold it on. And aside from the fact that if you strip any of those bolts, that's not going to stay secure. They're only as secure as those two bolts. So if somebody, with a nice wrench comes by in the middle of the night and decides they want to unlock your bike, aside from the old kick method where they just keep kicking the handlebars until it comes loose, they can just take those 2 bolts out and the lock will fall right off. And if they're really sharp, they can then short circuit the key, the lock. So my suggestion, if you really want to keep your bike, don't rely on that lock. Just pretend that lock isn't there, okay? The only thing that lock is going to do is keep kids from playing, hopefully kids from playing around with it until they find out how to get past it. But you need to put a wheel lock on your bike, front and rear, if you want to keep it. And then make sure that it's in a place where nobody can just come in, load it on a truck and drive off with it without somebody noticing. Because the other problem is they only weigh about 500 pounds.